Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408, 312-255-8408. You can also get us on youtube.com/CatholicChicago, youtube.com/Chicago. Father Greg Sakowitz, the rector of Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago, and co-host Mark Teresi, executive director of the cathedral. How are you, Mark?
Good. We have an exciting mission tonight at Holy Name, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
All are invited, 7 p.m. in the cathedral. Father Tom McCarthy, Augustinian,
he's outstanding,
who preached at all the Mass this weekend, was phenomenal. Was just phenomenal. He had the people so engaged and laughing and just sharing. His whole mission is going to be struggling and connecting the mystery of God with life. How do you put it all together? And should be a great
takes
mission.
a lifetime, doesn't it?
Does, in fact, many times I tell people we should be called not human beings, but rather human becomings, because we're always trying to become something more and something better. Also, special shout out to we cite Michael May and Brian Hockey Hitman Brock in the studio, engineer producers. But there's a new kid on the block, Clinton, who formerly worked at my former parish, St. Mary of the Woods in Edgebrook. And I can't believe that Michael and Brian made Clinton stand on the chair as a hazing rite and sing his high school alma mater. That was good of you guys. I really like that. And it's a tough crowd. So great program lined up. Time in Chicago is 8:03. In sports, not much to talk about. Blackhawks keep losing. The Bulls keep losing.
Oh, the Cubs are winning.
Who cares? This exhibition. The exhibition doesn't count. But yeah, they are winning. But tell me, starting in April when the games count, the White Sox and the Cubs, and but the Blackhawks aren't going anywhere. The Bulls are going nowhere. So we do have baseball to look forward to, and it's sports in Chicago. And again, 312-255-8408. The Ignatian Spirituality Project, ISP, invites those recovering from homelessness and addiction to experience God's unconditional love. The Ignatian Spirituality Project believes that spirituality has an important role to play on the journey of recovery and exists to a lighted path forward. The hope is that through reflection on life experiences within a safe and welcoming environment, participants can begin to find the self-acceptance, hope, and healing needed to reclaim their lives. Our guests, Matt Myers and Latanya Simpson. Matt and Latanya, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Oh, my gosh, it's great. Matt, where are you from growing up?
Cincinnati, Ohio, originally.
Are you a big Bengals football fan?
Well, now I am. Wasn't much to cheer for the last 30-something years, but here we are.
You're exactly right. Where are you from, Latanya?
I am from Chicago, Illinois.
Where'd you go to high school?
Proviso West.
Oh, okay.
So then Proviso West High School.
In that Maywood area?
Actually, it's in Hillside. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, in Hillside, in that area over there.
Yeah.
And ironically, Mark Teresi, the co-host, went to high school in the very building we are in right now, which was then called Quigley Preparatory North Seminary.
Right. This was probably right around the pool area.
In the old pool.
Hope we don't sink here.
And I was at Notre Dame in Niles. So for maybe either Matt or Latanya, for anybody who may not have ever heard the Ignatian Spirituality Project, ISP, when did it begin and who started the whole thing?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So it actually began here in Chicago in 1998 with Father Bill Creed, who's a Jesuit,
Oh, sure.
as well as Ed Scherna, who was at the time the executive director for the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless. And the two of them got together, Ed having gone on spiritual retreats for most of his life, Bill having directed a lot of retreats as a Jesuit, and they started to have conversations about what would it be like to invite folks that are experiencing homelessness, that are in recovery, to participate in a retreat. And really, Ed's question began with just the noticing that he himself really benefited from going on retreats. And so why wouldn't these men and these women that are struggling with homelessness, struggling with addiction, living in transitional housing shelters, why wouldn't they benefit from it? And what might that do for them? And so the two of them got together and they started to offer retreats. And at first it was a little bit bumpy, but then it slowly grew into the ministry that it is today, where we have approximately 700 volunteers across 20 some cities throughout the United States, Canada, and Ireland, where we run 100 plus retreats a year and about 1,000 or so spiritual reflections at social service agencies and shelters.
That's amazing.
That's beautiful. Latanya, how are you involved with this wonderful mission and ministry?
I was introduced to ISP through a recovery home called Sister House, and I was a victim of homelessness and drug addiction. And through this recovery home, these ladies would come and they would always just embrace us, and they didn't judge us. They would love on us. They would share their struggles and things of that nature, because everyone struggles from something. It doesn't have to be addiction or alcoholism, but everyone struggles from something. And these ladies who came to us open arms, first time seeing us, they were from ISP. And from that moment of just embrace that they did with us, I was hooked. And then they invited us to retreat. And my first retreat was such a spiritual awakening for me, because it helped me to understand the difference between religion and spirituality. I didn't know. And that helped me to become more in tune with God. I mean, it literally opened up my eyes. And I thought it was going to be this spiritual retreat where we were praying, on our knees every 5 minutes. And it wasn't like that at all. It was totally spiritual. And I've been hooked ever since. And that was 8 years ago.
Now, let me ask you
Wow,
this, Latanya. So which means
That's right.
ISP, Latanya, truly changed your life.
Absolutely they did. And I wanted to be a part of that. So I went from a retreatant to a witness to a facilitator. So now I witness when they need me, but mostly I help facilitate as a volunteer.
Now, a question I have for you, Matt, and that is, how many retreats are done a year, and how did you get involved in the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do approximately 100 or so retreats a year across the United States, Canada, and Ireland. And I got involved with the program really back in 2016. I was working at a university in international student affairs where we helped students study abroad. And my hope, I was living in Texas at the time, was that I was going to help students process and integrate those experiences. But after I got to the job and spent a little bit of time there, I realized, I'm just pushing papers around here. So I started looking for something that was more meaningful, that was more honest, that was really grounded in vulnerability and spirituality. And that's where I found the Ignatian Spirituality Project. I was so moved, actually, in the interview process, when they're really asking questions about my faith, about my struggles, about my spirituality. And I thought, well, this is a really peculiar organization, because that's not normal questions you obviously get in an interview process, but it's turned out to be just an absolute delight and joy, because really we meet people in their lived experiences. And I think that's what's so profound about the ministry, is that really God God includes everything. That's an Ignatian spirituality kind of tenet, is that God is in all things and God's in the struggle. Mm-hmm. And so what does that mean for us? How do we allow the struggle to be a transformative experience in our lives and redirect us towards God's unconditional love for us and for others? So I've been really moved by it, and people like Latanya. And one of the things I just say is kind of a hallmark of Ignatian spirituality, as well as our program, and I think, Latanya, you really already pointed to this, is that it's a ministry of companionship. It's a ministry of accompaniment. So whether we're talking about Ignatius and his early days, or whether we're talking about Bill Wilson, the founder of AA, it was always ministry of accompaniment. And so there's a mutuality to that. And so when Latanya talks about the women coming to the shelter and sharing their struggles, they're authentic about that. And when we meet each other there in our struggles, we can get real about what's going on in our lives. None of us are without struggle, as Latanya already said. And that place is really where transformation begins. So I've loved every part of being involved in this ministry, and look forward to continuing to work with folks like Latanya, but also being transformed. I learn a lot from Latanya myself, so it's very mutual.
What's interesting is that you're talking, Matt, and that is being part of this ministry in your life and career has been transformative for you, because not only are you touching lives, they're touching you and making a difference in your life. But Latanya, to go back to the first question I asked you is, when you made that retreat, is what made you decide to go? Because it's so easy to take the way out and say, I'm not going to confront myself or issues in my life or take that step into deeper water, but you could have stayed in the shallow end of the pool. What made you jump into the deep end of the pool?
Well, first of all, coming into recovery, I was willing to do everything that was positive. I had lived such a dark world in addiction for so long, till that was something new and refreshing. And the ladies came in giving themselves, they didn't judge. And so I was just open-minded. I was open-minded to the retreat. And then when I went and saw that it wasn't them saying, you should be a nun, or you should be this, or it wasn't any of that. It was all about companionship. It was all about camaraderie. It was all about, just sharing our experiences and how to become a better person. And so I dove right in. And at the end of the retreat, there's a survey, and they ask if you want to be contacted for further. And I would always say yes.
Who was your first contact after the retreat? And did that make a difference, that first contact that you had? That had to be life-changing.
Yes, absolutely. When they finally, because I ended up being in this recovery home for like 2.5 years. So I got to go on a lot of retreats, because when I did start working, I only had to work Monday through Friday. So the retreats were on usually Saturday to Sunday. So the working ladies, I got to go on a lot of retreats. And so when they finally reached out to me and asked if I wanted to do witness training, I was like, absolutely, absolutely, because I wanted to give back what was so freely given to me. And in AA, that's part of what we must do in order to stay sober. We must give back, what was given to us, and to watch other ladies blossom and to grow within themselves. It's just an amazing thing to watch.
That's wonderful.
Beautiful. We're going to take a little break. WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We'll be back with Matt Myers and Latanya Simpson from the Ignatian Spirituality Project, and maybe in our next segment we'll talk about specifics on the retreat, and also how can our listeners reach out and possibly go on a retreat. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
For more than 20 years, Catholic Charities Adult Protective Services has been advocating for seniors who are the victims of abuse, neglect, confinement, or financial exploitation. With our partners at local, city, and state agencies, our trained case managers follow through on every concern that is brought to our attention in a cooperative way to ensure that our seniors are safe and protected. According to the Illinois Department on Aging, last year nearly 21,000 cases of elder abuse were reported in Illinois. Of these, only 5% were reported by seniors themselves. So raising awareness is an important part of this issue. If you are concerned about a senior you know, call 800-252-8966. That's 800-252-8966. With your help, we can stop elder abuse and look out for the seniors in our lives.
Folks, you probably know that on March 13th, we celebrate the 10th anniversary of the election of Pope Francis as the Bishop of Rome. Ever since his election, he has asked the people of God to pray for him. And so we are joining in an effort asking Catholics on March 13th to say 10 Hail Marys for him. You can learn more about this and register your name at archchicago.org. I encourage all of you to participate in this support of the Holy Father as he celebrates a decade of service to the people of God.
Catholic Charities Refugee Resettlement Program has been especially busy this year, assisting individuals and families who have fled dangerous situations in their homeland, including Afghanistan and the Ukraine. The Refugee Resettlement Team helps with everything they need to start to rebuild their lives in a new country, including housing, employment, clothing, food, English classes, and referrals for legal and immigration services. The refugees are tremendously grateful for the compassion and practical help they're receiving, and they're giving back and helping each other plan for a brighter, safer future. Volunteer opportunities are currently available for those who would like to be family mentors and tutors so children and adults can practice English. To learn more about these rewarding opportunities, call 312-655-7096. That's 312-655-7096.
We're back, WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. You go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're with Matt Myers and Latanya Simpson from the Ignatian Spirituality Project. Matt, why not reach out to our listeners a little bit, tell them a little bit about where they can find the retreats, but also maybe a little bit of the structure of a retreat. What would they look forward to if they took the risk and signed up?
Yeah, so to find the retreats, you'd actually have to come through us to actually see the list of them. We don't publish those on our website. Instead, what we have is really our retreats that are happening across the United States. And our teams, our volunteer teams, are really the ones animating those retreats. So they happen all throughout the year. I think in Chicago, we probably host about 8 maybe 9 retreats a year.
Where are they held, by the way, Matt?
Excuse me. Go ahead.
In Chicago, where are the retreats held?
Yeah, so some of them are at Bellarmine Jesuit Retreat House.
Out in Barrington.
Port Uncle-less.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Port Uncle-less. We also have them at Loyola University Ecology Center.
Sure.
Bennett Lake. So we're really all over the city. I think we have about 4 or 5 partners. We used to be at the Senecal. So we really are all over the place in offering the retreats. And they probably happen like once, one for men and one for women every quarter or every season. And then on the actual retreats themselves, really what we tell participants and what we tell our volunteers is that it's a participatory retreat. It's not a preached retreat by any means. When people arrive, they introduce themselves to the group, but everybody's participating in the activities of the group. And by design, what's really being invited there is for us to share our lived experiences, because ISP believes that by looking at our lived experiences, that's really where transformation is going to take place. It's that gentle sense of noticing where am I experiencing fear, where am I experiencing trust in my life, what experiences have given me life. What experiences in Ignatian terms have given me desolation. So it's all about these different activities that we move through that really help us examine our own lived experiences in relationship to what we've been living in, but also in relationship to others, in relationship to our higher power. So we'll spend a little bit of time on images of God too. Not everybody that comes on the retreat is Catholic by any means. There's a lot of people just seeking. And so what does their God look like to them? And how has that God informed their own spirituality, their own prayer life, things like that?
And then maybe another question in that is, being here in downtown Chicago, there's many, many homeless. So how do you go about inviting an individual to be part of this? Do they first have to connect through some place or someone?
Yeah, that's a great question. So back to the very early beginnings of ISP, when Ed Scherna was working for the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless and Bill Krieb was just getting this ministry started, they started by inviting people that were right off of the streets, and that didn't really go very well. If we look at just Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we do need people to have some sort of stable housing, have some stability in their recovery. And so that's where we go to social service agencies and shelters. We partner with them throughout the city. And that's what Latanya was referencing a little bit earlier. Latanya, you could speak a little bit more to this, but people are in recovery. They're at least 60 days sober. They're temporarily housed. Sometimes it could be a 60, 90-day program. Other times it could be a two-year program. But that's where we meet people, and we're working really directly with the agencies, and we're saying, hey, this is what our ministry is all about. Is there anybody that you feel might be interested in participating? And so we get a lot of direct referrals that way. Latanya, I don't know if you want to say more about that process.
Yes. So being in a recovery home, and wow, there's my picture. Being in a recovery home, the one that I went through, we were actually, after Matt said, like 60 days, because coming first in, we had to get some structure underneath our belt, because coming from addiction and homelessness, you're not a structured person. So we were chosen by the length of time that we had been there for that particular recovery home. And we were allowed to go as long as you were doing, your chores and doing the things that you were supposed to do. And then we were given this opportunity to attend a retreat. And the retreat, again, not being a spiritual or, not being a religious schedule. It was literally being able to share about things that we thought no one else went through, and finding the commonality amongst ourselves of the different struggles that we went through and how we overcame them, and just even just being listened to. A lot of it was the facilitators. They don't say you should or you don't. They listen to us and they allow us to express and share their experiences with the same or similar situation.
Latanya, what was it? What did it? Two questions. What did it feel like walking into that retreat? And secondly, for our listeners who might be struggling with the issues that you were talking about, how would you invite them to consider it?
Walking into the retreat, you can immediately feel a sense of, I felt a sense of belonging, one, and just a sense of peace. Like I felt safe. It was a safe haven walking into my first retreat house. And how they can be invited is, I believe right now, Matt, and correct me if I'm wrong, everyone is partnered. The facilitators are partnered with recovery homes and assisted living places, and they have liaisons that reach out to them and say, we're having a retreat on this specific date. Do you have any people that are available to go? And that's how generally, and then they even pick us up, guys. They pick us up and bring us back. And so it's just an amazing setup that they have there.
And just in the last couple of minutes, Matt, if somebody would like to make a donation to help support this tremendous project and ministry, help us out for a second. A phone number, website.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because what we haven't said is that this ministry is 100% free to all of our participants. And that's part of the beauty and the grace of it, is that a lot of our participants have never been on a retreat before or could afford one. We all know that they're pricey. And so our ministry runs 100% on donations. And if you'd like to make a donation, you could come to our website, ispreetreats.org, and you could make a donation to the city that you'd specifically want to donate to. Because we're in 20-something cities across the United States, Canada, and Ireland, we support all of these ministries. Another way that people might get involved and just learn a little bit more is to attend the Company of Grace that we have coming up this week on Thursday, March 9th at 7 p.m. Central. This is our annual fundraiser. It's virtual. We're having James Martin, as many folks know.
Oh, yeah.
Him. We're also having Mary Carr, who's a memoirist, and then Lisa Sharon Harper, who's the author of The Very Good Gospel and several other books. And we're going to have a little bit of a conversation with all of them, and then we'll also have some of our alumni highlighted. What's really neat about the Company of Grace this year is that we're actually kicking off our celebration of 25 years of really sacred stories, because at the end of the day, in the retreat circles or in the spiritual reflection circles that we have, what we're really sharing is sacred stories, the sacred stories of transformation, the sacred stories of recovery, the sacred stories of healing. And so that's what we're going to be celebrating really throughout the entire next 12 months.
Matt, for our listeners, I'm in fundraising. What does it cost? If I wanted to sponsor someone on that retreat, what's the cost?
Yeah, so an average retreat probably costs about $300, and that's with the overnight retreat expense costs, a little bit of the transportation, as well as some other resources that are built around them to support. And we typically, our retreats, we keep them small because we want them to be very intimate.
Now, what is
we
small?
want people to be heard.
Now, what is small? Maybe 10?
About 12.
Okay.
12 folks on a retreat. Now, some of these retreat houses, as you know, could hold 40, 50, even 60 people. But, we try and keep them small so that people really do feel like that they can be heard, that they can be listened to. And as Latanya just noted, that is so much a part of the healing process. And it's really important to be heard. I mean, a lot of folks that have experienced homelessness, been in recovery, one of the core things is that they're ignored. People don't meet their eyes on the streets.
In fact, it's interesting you say that, Matt, because once I was talking, and we're bringing to a close here, I was talking to a gentleman who was homeless, and I said, what's the worst part or the hardest part about being homeless? And he surprised me and said, no one looks at you. I never thought of it. You're walking down the street and you see a homeless person, your eyes divert away because you're afraid if you make eye contact, they're going to ask you for money. And so if I look away at someone walking down the street, so when he said to me, I thought the hardest part was going to be about winter in Chicago, food, my next meal, where am I sleeping tonight? Nobody wants to look at you. And I thought, what an incredible response. Matt, one more time, give us the website, and we need to bring the segment to a close.
Yeah, it's ispreetreats.org. Really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, I want to thank in a very special way Matt Myers and Latanya Simpson from the Ignatian Spirituality
Thank you.
Project. You both have been phenomenal guests. Our prayers are with you. Keep up the great ministry. You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. You can also get us at youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi, stay with us. Be back after messages. And again, do not touch that dial.
Caring adults make all the difference in the lives of adolescents. Catholic Charities understands this, and our mentorship programs provide a free opportunity for young adults to spend time with volunteers who genuinely care about them. This program is ideal for youth aged 9 through 12 who may need support navigating the challenges of childhood and early adolescence. Our amazing volunteers serve as friends who help youth recognize their strengths and empower them to reach their full potential. Catholic Charities conducts a thorough background check on every volunteer, and our program coordinator closely monitors and supports every relationship. Mentoring is a fun after-school program that can help young adults build confidence and enjoy fun activities with their peers, too. To learn more, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7970 in Cook County and 847-782-4224 in Lake County. We're connecting youth with great role models. Join us today.
This is year 44 for me teaching. When I started here, there were teachers here that had taught me when I was a student. Now I'm the old person. Right now, I teach junior high math. I love when kids find what I'm teaching to be fun and they get it. I see that light bulb go off and it's a thrill. People are always amazed. What? You're here for 44 years? It's hard for me to believe, frankly. I love what I do. Every summer I think, oh, I miss the classroom. Even on the weekends, I think I can't wait to get back on Monday and teach those quadratic equations.
Shape the next generation of leaders. Teach. Apply today at archchicago.org/schooljobs.
The cemetery ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. Also get us at youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz and Mark Teresi. Mark, that was a wonderful first half hour.
Very
with
inspiring.
Matt and Latanya. I mean, I've heard the program before, the whole Ignatian spirituality program, and for the retreats they do, but they really gave us some great details and great ministry reaching out.
And Latanya's story was a story of conversion.
Yeah.
She realized that she was loved.
Exactly. And in turn, now passing on the baton.
Exactly.
Passing
beautiful.
forward. A great second half lined up. Men of Christ is an organization of Catholic men with the goal of helping men to be authentically Catholic and develop meaningful friendships with like-minded Catholic men. Men of Christ Catholic Conference is scheduled on Saturday, March 11th this Saturday. Our guest, Kevin O'Brien. Kevin, welcome to the program this morning. How are you?
Thanks, Father. Thanks, Mark. Really excited to be here with you today.
Now, Kevin, where do you live? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling in from Brookfield, but I live in Pewaukee, so just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
No,
wait. Just north of you guys.
Now, wait, time out. You're not a Packer fan, are you?
You let me in. I know. I'm like, that's a miracle.
Okay, Michael and Clinton and Brian, this program comes to an end. But thanks for joining us, Kevin.
I think I got in under the wire.
That is great. Well, listen now. First of all, now what is your background, Kevin? Where are you from originally, and growing up in high school and all that good stuff?
Yeah, sure. I'm originally from Michigan. I grew up just outside of Detroit, north of Detroit, in a town called Sterling Heights. And I grew up, my dad's ethnic Irish, meaning he came over off the boat. And so grew up in a blue-collar family, old school. You know, there were no timeouts when I grew up. And but like, hey, watch out, here he comes. It was, and we would go to church regularly, like I would say consistently, but I never knew my faith. It was a time where we really didn't learn what we believed as Catholics. So I drifted away from the faith as I got older, and football became the sport. I played that in college and 3 years of pro. And then actually in the pro experience, through our Protestant brothers in some faith sharing groups, really Bible studies, I started to come back into the faith.
Now, did you play for the Cincinnati Bengals?
No, I played them. Oh, well, actually, I played in the stadium in college, but I played with the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots, and then in the CFL and then the NFL Europe.
What years were you with Buffalo?
93.
What position?
Outside linebacker.
No kidding. That's impressive.
Yeah, I have a funny story around that.
Sure, go ahead.
I know we don't have so much time. I could give you all kinds of stories that about the time. I was kind of a leaner outside linebacker. You know, a lot of people would think I played kicker.
Did you go about 220?
Very good, yeah, 225 to 230.
Mm-hmm. Sure, that would be a leaner linebacker. And
yeah.
So what's your story you're going to tell?
Well, you know, I was with Buffalo. I came in for rookie camp. Jim Kelly,
quarterback.
Again, he was very into his ethnic culture, the Irish culture, good man. And we were working out, and he said, I was in for rookie camp. So I was getting ready to leave. And he's like, hey, Kev, do you want to stick around and help me out this weekend? I'm hosting a fundraiser, and I'm looking for some guys to participate. And I said, oh my gosh, absolutely. So we did this. He said, well, make sure you wear your jersey. We're going to go to the inner city, do a camp. And then that afternoon, we will go play golf. Well, he said, make sure you have your jersey. Well, I come walking up to these three guys, right, that had paid to be with a Buffalo Bill. And I was a rookie. So I come walking up, and they had this like look of, I don't want to say disgust, but they're like, well, who are you? And I'm like, Kevin O'Brien, Buffalo Bill. Well, what position do you play? And the first guy, and I would always come back to, well, what position do you think I play? And then one guy said quarterback, and I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. The second guy said, he said wide receiver. And I said, no. So now I start getting offended. And then the third guy said kicker. And then I said, well, I will kick your, you know what? I play outside linebacker. So that was and I dealt with that my whole career. But it was a fun experience. Really was blessed to be able to have that opportunity.
Where did you play college ball?
At Bowling Green State University in Ohio.
Okay, sure.
So where did this faith movement come from in your life?
You know, it was I was playing out in California. So I was playing with the CFL, Canadian Football League, that actually had tried to expand into the U.S. And I was getting ready for practice, and I started listening to a non-denominational preacher named Father John. John Hagee. And I just really, because he was a Bible thumping, very passionate, gave what we'll call great sermons. And I started to enter into that. And through that, I was doing these Bible studies, as I mentioned, and I just started asking a lot more questions. And I remember my brother and I were at home, who was discerning the priesthood, by the way. That we weren't a very pious family. And he just, as we're having this very heated debate on abortion, he said, you know what your problem is? You need to get to confession. And it probably was about 15 to 18 years away for me in that range. Actually, whenever I took my confession to that time, I had never gone back. So I went, scales came off, God's grace came in, and I started to really dive into the catechism. So I had this heart to learn what we believed as Catholics and why we believed what we believed. And really, ever since then, I've just fell in love with our Catholic faith.
And this would have been what year, Kevin?
Gosh, this would have been back in, 97. So 1997. 26
years ago. So then how did you begin this whole entire program, the program you do, Men of Christ? When did this originate?
So it's interesting because this is so I was out at that time living out near Boston in Worcester, the Worcester diocese, and I was tapped on the shoulder and invited to participate in a men's conference. And so I had the opportunity to witness the power of bringing men together. And then I did that for a number of years, and I knew my wife and I wanted to come back to the Midwest because she's from Ohio, and again, I'm from Michigan. So we came back, and I came into Milwaukee, and there was nothing like that. And I found 3 other guys, so there's 4 of us. And in 2006, we started the discussion on it. In 2007, we launched our first conference in February 7th of 2007.
That's amazing. And where was it launched the first time?
It was launched in a northern part of the diocese. And we were hoping for, this is another funny story. Actually, it was February 17th. In January 10th of that year, because we had all these great ideas, we had 10 people signed up. So people were literally like ready to jump off the boat, like, whose idea was this? It's not going to work. So what we started to do was we really started to tap other leaders and started articulating why it's important for us Catholic men to go out and reach and get guys. And we ended up filling the place up in a matter of, a few short weeks. So it's amazing when we call it the tap, touch a person, this personal invitation. For us, the conference experience is the first step that we use to evangelize men.
That's fascinating.
I had a quick question. The trophies behind you, what are they for?
Oh, yeah, that's just some success I've had at work. They're called, like the Silver Cup. Like every year, I'm the CEO of a company called Best Version Media now. But at that time, I was a region manager. So it's like a Super Bowl trophy.
Yeah.
You win that year. So that's why those.
I thought it was a Super Bowl trophy.
I did too.
Fortunate to lead our team.
Well, great.
So I'm still living it out, right? It's in the work world. I still have that desire to hold that Super Bowl trophy.
Take us to break, Mark.
We're going to take a little break. WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can go to YouTube.com/Catholic Chicago. We'll be back in a few minutes with Kevin O'Brien, and the question I'm going to ask is discipline, football, and the church. What are the similarities that you found?
Great question.
We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Catholic Charities' Family Self-Sufficiency Program has assisted thousands of single parents who are working to become more self-sufficient through education and employment opportunities. Our experienced case managers accompany participants for up to 5 years on their journey to identify, address, and break down barriers to improving their quality of life and achieving meaningful goals for themselves and for their families. Professional, compassionate assistance is offered in a safe and trusting environment as participants develop the skills needed to become financially stable and able to support themselves. Every achievement starts with a decision to try To learn more about Catholic Charities Family Self-Sufficiency Program, call 847-782-4233 or visit CatholicCharities.net.
I am a seminarian.
The Church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Community is core to Catholic Charities' founding mission. For more than 100 years, we have met people and families where they are, serving anyone in need, regardless of their faith, gender, race, or ethnicity. As our world absorbs the economic, political, and social aftershocks of the pandemic, 50% or more of the 6 million people living in Cook and Lake counties have little or no savings. They are a paycheck away from zero. We are deeply grateful to everyone in the Catholic Charities community who partners with us to alleviate the suffering of the people we serve and offer them a better path forward. We are witnessing a message of mercy and hope to a world very much in need. Learn more at CatholicCharities.net.
We're back, WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Folks, on YouTube, you saw Father Greg's chair empty. He had to go. They're recording special Mass, and he had to get back to Cathedral. We're with Kevin O'Brien from Men of Christ, an organization of Catholic men, goal of helping men to be authentically Catholic. Before the break, Kevin, I had said discipline. Football career, Catholic, a man in the Catholic Church. Where are the crossroads in discipline?
Well, I think there's so many things. Like, I'll step back. I one of the things I tell when I give my personal testimony, in a sense, and my reconversion back to the faith, I say, I wish I had the faith I had now back when I was playing football. Now, yeah, from a discipline perspective, I would say physically disciplined, yes, but mentally disciplined, spiritually disciplined, it wasn't there. Meaning, what do I mean by that? Like, if you look at where again, this is the growth, but, a morning routine, getting to Mass, praying the rosary, entering into the sacraments, that fills your heart, what I would say, full of love. So this idea of fear and love can't live in the heart together, so it pushes that out. And those disciplines that I have in my faith life has really allowed me to grow in my professional life. So when I was playing football, of course I had discipline in the workouts and stuff, but there was so much pressure, specifically as playing pro football, because I went from college, big fish, little pond, into a very big pond, and it like being a little fish, and you're playing with these all pros. So mentally you really get full of anxiety and worry. And now I've come to learn to do everything for the greater glory of God, and having that outlook, seeing through that lens, embracing the struggles that come in life, and not looking at it as something to, oh gosh, but looking at it in a way of, okay, that's where my growth is. And by me, modeling Christ in that sacrifice, I can grow. So what I've come to learn is, I had disciplines set in habits, I would say human habits, but those have grown as I've grown in my faith, because I've come to better understand why suffering is there. There's a book called Mindset, written by a gal, Dr. Carol DeWick, and she studied all of these great athletes and business and stuff, and she said this, and I've never forgotten it. So it's really on growth mindset, like how to have a good mindset versus a fixed mindset. And she said what she found is, in all of her study, those that were successful, they came to learn to love the effort. and to embrace that cross, to embrace that suffering. And I would say over the years, that's what I've come to learn by entering deeper and deeper into our Catholic faith.
Now, in your job, in your career, now there's a book, Leadership is an Art, Max Dupree, and Herman Miller, they make furniture. His question to his managers is, what can grace allow us to become? And as you look at your work life, and then we'll get into the specifics of the conference, you look at your work life, has it changed since you've, I'd say, had that conversion experience in the faith? Do you look at work differently? And how?
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. Going back to this idea of suffering and fear and trying to look at it a different way. I now, and specifically as a leader, right? I had a friend tell me once, the higher you go in an organization, the bigger your umbrella gets. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, you can protect more people from the storms of life. And I thought that was really profound.
Wow.
So, yeah, for me, it's not we want to help our people make money, but we want it to become more than money, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to have meaning in what we do. And what I've come to learn as I dive deeper and deeper into our Catholic faith, I'm finding more and more meaning, not only as a leader of an organization, but a leader as a father, right? Like I have come to again, I'm a long way, I got a lot of work to do, but this idea I've come to understand to pour yourself out for your family, to pour yourself out for those that you lead, because they go as you go, right? And how do I continue to try to become more Christ-like? And that really is being able to embrace the crosses that come every day, and come to learn to appreciate it, which it's not an easy thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in my own mind trying to work through it, but I'm thinking that way more. So you go as your thoughts go. So my thoughts have really improved because of the learning I've had from our Catholic faith. And that's helped me become a better leader, a more compassionate leader.
Well, Kevin, tell us about March 11th.
So March 11th, we have it's the Men of Christ Conference, which is the way we go out and to try to evangelize. Actually, in Marytown, for you guys in the Archdiocese of Chicago, you'll be hosting events. So we've created a hybrid model. And the hybrid model is live, in person, but also you can watch online. So we really want people to come together. We've got now over 120 different parishes participating in 8 different states, and now Ireland. We literally, that just happened over the weekend. So we have a model that allows us to reach out into the deep to go get men, right? There was a study done pre-COVID, 22% of people attended Mass. Post-COVID, it's at 17%. So what we want to do for those that really, truly do believe, we want to give them tools to go out and bring that 83% that have left the faith and bring them back into the church.
Now, on YouTube,
the model's allowed men. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, on YouTube, people can see, is that a picture of Bishop Listecki that's going to be one of the speakers?
It is, yeah, one of your own.
He's a Chicago native.
He is.
We worked together at Mundelein Seminary. He was there for many, many years. The only problem with him is he's a Sox fan. He's a White Sox fan.
Yeah, I keep hearing that. And very proud Sox fan, I must say.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Now, what does he say about men in Christ? He doesn't give his name, or he will not speak unless it's something he really believes in. So what is
he's been an amazing supporter. We really have, like, one of our tenets of we wanted to evangelize, evangelize amongst our catechize, and then unify. And we've got this unifying connection with the Archdiocese of Milwaukee and expanding out. And he's been there every year since, has done a phenomenal job. And this year, not only will he be giving a short talk, but he'll be doing a father-son blessing. So really powerful thing. So not only for men to come for themselves, but for men to bring their children, because again, the family goes as the father goes. And if the father stays in the faith, the children will stay. So we want them to witness through their actions.
Here's a quick Bishop Listecki story. When he was in La Crosse, someone 2 floors down from his office physically went down. They notified him. He came down. He revived the gentleman. He saved his life. I mean,
wow.
He's not only a religious leader, he's very practical. He's very hands-on. He and my wife are dear, dear friends. Theologically, they they're not always in the same place. I listen to him at lunch, and then all of a sudden, big hug and a kiss. Good to see you, Jared. Good to see you, Mayor. He's a great guy. He's a great. I just think your organization having him is a total endorsement of what you're about.
It is. And actually, not only that, Mark, he's asked me to talk to all the bishops in Wisconsin.
Beautiful.
To really, what's that?
Beautiful.
Yeah, so just this idea, because it's Monsignor Shays talks about this apostolic age versus Christendom age, and we're in this apostolic age of we have to go out and bring people back. And what we're striving to do with Men of Christ is to do that, to bring out, to communicate the faith, to allow men to enter into the sacrament of confession, right? The heart of our conference, that experience is for men to get there. We have guys 30, 40, 50, 60 years away from the sacrament, going to confession.
Beautiful.
So really to present this masculine modality of the Catholic faith.
Now, Kevin, before we have to wrap it up, explain to a gentleman listening today why come? Why come to this conference?
Because it will help transform your life. It'll be the first step. And not only you as a man, but you as a father, you as a grandfather, you as a brother. So it's for all ages. Literally from 5th grade up to 90 years old. And there is power in coming together, this idea of strength in numbers. So you're able to just being there and entering into the experience. Now, if that can happen, you can go to menofchrist.net, and there's a home viewing option there that you can watch from home just to also participate, even from your home. That flexibility has been built in for you.
Kevin, can you repeat that one more time? How do you sign up for in-person, and how do you sign up online?
Sure. Go to menofchrist.net, and you will see if you want to sign up for hey, I'd love to host my parish. We just had a group out of Tampa do this yesterday. Mm-hmm. You can click that button. And if you can then go to events in 2023, you scan all the way down. You'll see the section there that says 2023 to your left. No, go to your left a little bit. It says 2023 conference. There we go. And just scan all the way down. And you'll start to see all the different participating parishes.
Beautiful.
And then there's a home viewing option right at the bottom, right underneath. I think it's now Virginia, right there. See that home viewing option, bottom right?
Yes.
So you can watch from home as well.
That's wonderful. Before we close, favorite saint? Who's yours?
St. Thomas Aquinas.
And why?
And because of his brilliance of the way he thinks. I've just got a book. I've tried to go through the Summa, but I've got an easier one to be able to digest. But he's just an amazing thinker, and how he talks about habit. I absolutely love, and I'm drawn to him.
Well, I'd like to thank Kevin O'Brien. You got energy personified. I hope people picked up on your energy and will support Men of Christ on March 11th. Thank you for being on WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago. I'd like to also thank our producers, directors, everybody here that helps us be who we are. Michael Meyer, Brian, and Brock, and our newest member, Clinton. Welcome to Catholic Chicago. Have a great, blessed day in the name of Father Greg Sakowicz. Enjoy today. Kevin, we're going to do a half an hour on your football career next, because that's what Father Greg wants to do. He was fascinated with it.
I'd love to do it.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
We'll
God bless
back.
everybody.
Thanks. God bless. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.